This is the OnePlus 15 and it's the biggest change for OnePlus in a while. The design has gone from this to this. The photos no longer carry the Hasselblad logo and OnePlus is leaning way more into AI with a brand new button. This is also the first major flagship with the Snapdragon lead chip in the US. Oh, and did I mention that it has a massive 7K plus battery size? So should this be your next phone? If you're curious about picking up the OnePlus 15 or just wonder how it compares to others, stick around and let's get into it. What's up everyone, Vic here, and just in the beginning of the year, OnePlus launched the OnePlus 13. It's been 10 months now, OnePlus is skipping the number 14 because it means bad luck in Chinese, and it is dropping the 15, its new flagship, a bit earlier. First of all, let me start with the good news, the prices. The OnePlus 15 remains a great deal, undercutting all major US flagships at $900 for the 12 and 256GB model. I personally think that you should go for the higher spec model with 512 gigs of storage and 16 gigs of RAM, which costs just $100 more. In comparison, Apple asks $200 for a similar storage upgrade, but without any increase in RAM, so on value, it's an easy win for OnePlus. You also get more in the box. OnePlus is one of the last companies to include the charger for free. The phone also comes with a built-in screen protector, which is a nice touch, but there is no case included. Visually, the design has changed a lot this year. It's a simpler and more generic look. And OnePlus has definitely lost some of its identity in the process. You have three colors to choose from. We have the black one with a matte finish, which looks a bit muted, but that has the advantage of not showing fingerprints on the back. The sides are also matte, a big change from the more striking glossy sides on the OnePlus 13. You also have a sandstorm color version and a violet one. The other change is the frame of the phone. It's flat now and it's made from aluminum, just like most other phones. The signature alert slider is also gone and now replaced by a programmable action button. I'm starting to fear that in just a few years, all phones will look exactly the same with these changes. Now, as for durability, I've been using the OnePlus 15 for about 2 weeks now, and there are almost no scratches. Let's see how it holds up over a longer use, but so far, so good. The OnePlus 15 is also the only major flagship that has both IP68 and IP69 protection. The 9 number meaning it's protected against full-on jets of water. Now, I don't see a practical use for that, and OnePlus only says that if you somehow forgot your phone in your jeans and put them in the washing machine, the phone could survive that. I guess that's possible, but yeah. The 15 comes with a 6.8-inch display, which is now completely flat. One more change toward that generic look of every other phone now. But the flat screen is practical, and it's much easier to fit a proper screen protector. The most controversial change is a slight downgrade in resolution, but honestly, in real life, I personally cannot see a difference. OnePlus was able to trade those few pixels for a bump in the refresh rate, going from 120Hz to a whopping 165Hz, which feels buttery smooth to use. I think that's a nice trade-off. In our lab tests, we measured some impressive numbers too. The OnePlus 15 is the brightest phone we have ever tested, hitting 3500 nits of peak brightness. That's a nearly 25% bigger number than the iPhone 17 or Pixel 10 series, which is great. However, one issue I have with this display is just how reflective it is. Samsung and now Apple have both adopted anti-reflective screen coatings, and it's very noticeable how OnePlus has not. And arguably that might be an even more important measure than just pure brightness. One other interesting number from our labs is for minimum brightness. A lower number here is better and it's easier on the eyes at night, but the OnePlus 15 can only go down to about 2 nits, which is still a bit too bright compared to iPhones or Galaxies. You then have some useful additions like Aqua Touch, which allows you to easily use your phone with wet fingers, and Glove Mode, which works better than on other devices. The other big news with the OnePlus 15 is that it marks the end of the Hasselblad camera partnership for OnePlus. You would think that would be bad news and a drop in quality is expected, but I actually found the opposite to be true. Photos from the OnePlus 13 were quite over-sharpened and occasionally suffered from issues with dynamic range. Heck, night photos also looked wildly unrealistic like this. The OnePlus 15 photos bring things back to normal. colors are much more balanced, detail is softer in a good way, and you just have a more consistent look. I also love that the main camera photos are now 26 megapixels by default, a big upgrade in detail compared to 12 megapixel snaps. As for colors, they skew a bit warmer here and are slightly more saturated in real life, which I actually don't mind. In video, the OnePlus 13 suffered from halo artifacting, and the 15 fixes that, plus it has slightly more pleasing colors. We're also happy to see 4K 120 support on the 15, perfect for some slow motion action, and you can also use 4K 120 with the telephoto and the ultra-wide cameras. Nice. There are some other small improvements. The shutter button in the camera app is now finally white, like on all other phones. But then OnePlus has removed the power button double-click shortcut to open the camera, which is quite annoying as all other Android phones use that. On most other phones these days, you can also take a regular picture and blur the background after the fact, but not on the OnePlus. Again, very annoying. Overall, I think the OnePlus 15 brings a welcome camera upgrade, but the photo experience is still a few steps behind your iPhones and Galaxies. Next up, battery life. This is so exciting to see. A 7300 mAh battery, massive size, yet this phone is actually thinner than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. That's a nearly 45% increase in battery size compared to these mainstream flagships. We run our own battery tests for each phone, and the OnePlus scored big numbers on these tests. It was the first phone to score over 30 hours on our web browsing test, and also got 12 hours and a half of continuous YouTube video streaming and 14 hours on our 3D gaming test. But what really matters is how all of this translates into real usage. Even with the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which has very solid battery life, you would typically top it up every day. The OnePlus 15 changes that. It's really a 2-day phone, and this gives you a peace of mind that's really freeing. And it helps that you have super fast charging too. 80 watts, much faster than other flagships. We measured that it takes just 45 minutes to fully charge it compared to more than an hour on a Galaxy S25 or iPhone 17. The only thing I really missed was Qi2 magnetic charging. You do have 50-watt wireless AirVook charge, but I've gotten so used to using magnetic chargers in my car that it's a bit of a bummer that for magnets you need to use a case. Last but not least, let's talk performance. The OnePlus 15 is the first major US flagship with the new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chip, and it's an absolute beast. We did not expect that kind of performance. In the 3D Mark gaming test, the phone achieved nearly 99% stability, the kind we typically see on the very best gaming phones. We had to double check this result, but yes, it's indeed true. And compare this to a Galaxy S25 Ultra or an iPhone, and it's a night and day difference. Despite losing the Hasselblad brand and despite the generic design, I think the OnePlus 15 is fantastic value for the money. So if you're shopping for a new phone, don't forget that this one exists.